right. Welcome one and all to my very first video. Some of you might know me, some of you might not. I've been doing a first chapter feedback on Royal Road and Scribble Hub for the past 8 months. And so I figured I'd go ahead and start doing some YouTube videos. Not necessarily just about first chapter feedback, but it'll be heavily focused on these sites in general and web novel writing, and I might add some additional stuff in there that I like. I wanted to go ahead and for my very first video to sort of do what I do best and give a highlight to my favorite first chapter I ever read, just entertainment for whatever reason, and that would be Caninstinct by BenJepheneT. Caninstinct? They're all jumbled together. Swedish hockey player. Caninstinct by Ben. Be a two-parter. So to start out, I wanted to do the highlight of my favorite first chapter ever, and all the other chapters that I really liked, I put on that sort of super light list, I put on my best of list. I want to go ahead and do this for them as well, and as well as a in-depth review of the entire series. So that will be my second video coming out later, is a review of this entire instinct. Caninstinct by Ben. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Everyone pronounces mine wrong too. Everyone says STG. They just call me STG. It's Stephen Gerald Obria, which anyway. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get right into the very first review of Caninstinct. First and foremost, let's not start like that. The first thing you have to know is that Ben, my boy Ben, kind of a furry. He really likes animals, anthropomorphic animals, which I get, not the furry thing, no, but using anthropomorphic animals in your story, that's fun. I grew up on Redwall. In fact, boom, Redwall right here on my bookshelf. Great book. More of a children's book than anything, but I think it holds up. I read one of them a few years ago, and I've been planning to read back through the series, but using animals is fun. I don't think it adds anything. I don't think there's inherently a bonus to using animals as over humans, but it's fun. There's a lot of variety. You have the rats and the badgers, and in this story you have wolves and bears, and there's a dachshund. You can just use whatever you want. It's flavor. It's flavor. And as anyone who's eaten a hamburger knows, animals, they have a lot of flavor. So, getting into the actual story here. It's kind of interesting the way it's presented right off the cuff. In that it's not told linearly, and even reading through it, I'm not entirely sure how the time works. Essentially what we have is quite interesting, is a sort of bookend. There's a fight going on between our main character, who we find out is named Shiro, and this bear. Shiro's trying to get out of this warehouse, perhaps, and there's these doors he's trying to get through, and the bear's trying to stop him. And so the front and the back, I don't know, I'm not going to lower this just to show where my hands are. The front and the back into the story is this fight between the wolf and the bear, your main character, and this sort of antagonist. And we don't really know anything about it before or after. We just know he's trying to get out of somewhere, which I think on its own is enough of sort of a motivation. Like, we get it, he's trapped, he doesn't want to be somewhere. And then I think also the inherent nature of making a bear is really good for storytelling, because we know a bear is a lot bigger, a lot more imposing than a wolf. So right away, without him even having to tell us, we know our main character is in for a fight. Our main character, he has to beat this bigger, imposing force, and it's bloody. And then the middle section is where I think it gets really interesting, because I think these bookends, this fight, it's fine. It gets you a conflict, it gets you some storytelling there. You have some sort of stakes to the story, but the middle portion, which makes up like 80% of the entire story, is it's all dialogue. It's not exactly a trial, but it's very representative of a trial, where you have your character, Shiro the wolf. He's in auditorium or some sort of large-scale area, and there's a whole bunch of other people there. A lot of animals. And the one thing we really know is that our character, the wolf, he isn't supposed to be there. Wherever this place is, and it is explained once you get to the end. And because it is sort of like a big, ooh, what is this? I'm not gonna spoil that here. But he's not supposed to be here. He doesn't know how he got here. And through the dialogue, through this almost trial nature of him being asked these questions and being examined by all these different animals, we sort of get to put those clues together and play a little game. And just along with that is that the dialogue is really good. I really enjoyed it. You have all these different animals, and they each kind of have a personality. Like, it's not stereotypical, like the badger doesn't ask the badger question, the lion doesn't ask the lion question. But you do get a little personality there. It's not so much explicit as you can read kind of into it, the questions they're asking. And within those questions, you have sort of classism. There's kind of a social commentary here. And that kind of tells you about where this place you are. The fact that you do have these people who seem to be, these animals who are, well, they're people for the purpose of the story. This might as well just be with people. Like I said, it's flavoring. But you have these animals who are very focused on rich versus poor, on their status. And so a lot of these questions are based on that. And because of that, you're sort of trying to play along and say, where exactly are we? That's really fun. And the dialogue is very, I don't want to call it pulpy, but it's fun. And there's a very strong voice to it. There's a lot of characters when these characters talk, and playing along with the mystery is fun. And because you have these bookends of, you know it's going to turn violent. You know, we started with violence, we ended with violence. Whatever this is, it's not good. Our character shouldn't be here, and he needs to get out. But in the process of that, we get to discover with him just what's going on. And which is the other good thing to talk about, because when you introduce a story, when you start out with a story, that main character is what's the word? That main character is the avatar for the audience. Not the word I was looking for, but it works. We're experiencing things with him, we're discovering things with him. So having this be so out of the loop, we get to discover all that with him, and it's great. He's our audience stand-in. That's the word I was looking for, audience stand-in. And along with that, I do want to address that real quickly, in that he doesn't have amnesia as far as I can tell. In fact, we don't really get any explanation. And that's sort of why it's so interesting. It's sort of very much focused. The bookends are focused on the fighting, and the middle portion is just focused on this back and forth between him and the audience, that push and pull, these questions and answers. Because ultimately, at least in this chapter, it doesn't matter how we got there. The point is, he's here, he's in trouble, let's figure it out. So that's great, it's great. And like I said, it's really just fun. It all came down to just pure enjoyment for me, really fun. The prose is a little waxy. If I had any complaint, it would be the prose. Sometimes you have some really good descriptive language. Sometimes it's a little too much, maybe. Like I said, there's things I enjoy, and sometimes it's like, tone it down. You're like, you're here and you need to be here. Like it's a small gap. It's small. Like, yeah, I can see it. So anyway, that's about as much as I can come up with right off my top. And I guess my final verdict on this is that it's very character-based. You learn about your main character through the dialogue. He's able to effectively characterize the main character through the dialogue. And by doing so, you have these other characters that may or not even be permanent characters. They're just stand-ins, whatever. They all have a certain amount of character to them. You get that, you get everything. It's character-based. It's 100%, let's have a conversation. And I think part of the reason it's so interesting, as opposed to a normal let's have a conversation, heavy sci-fi kind of presentation, is that it's a conversation with an entire auditorium filled of animals. So he's not just sitting there with one person and he's like, all right, let's explain it, let's talk. No, you got people are literally in line to talk to this wolf and interrogate him. And it feels like he's on trial. It feels like the actual conversation, there might be even more danger there than his fight with the bear. And that's about all I can really offer without spoiling too much. It leaves you with a lot of questions. I think that's part of the fun, because you do have a really good sense of who this is. You have a pretty good sense of what's going on in some capacity, but then you don't know why. I was going to say you also don't know how, but the how almost doesn't matter, because once again, we don't care how we got here. There's probably going to be covered. I expect it's going to be covered in the later chapters, and I will review that later. But as a reader, I don't care. And I would say also the prospect of him, of what we find out what it is, it's both, it's not uninteresting. It's just a little more standard than you'd think. You have this great setup, this great presentation, it's really interesting, really engaging. You're like, oh, is this the kind of story it is? Once again, I'm not even 100% sure what it is after this, in a good way. Because a lot of times when you're reading a first chapter, you want that feedback of, okay, I know what I am reading. I don't know what I'm reading, but in a good way. I'm curious. I want to learn more. The fact that we do get an answer as to what this place is, even if it's not fully explained and might not even be true, that is good, because you need something. You can't just say something's happening. We have an explanation, might be partial, might be false, but we have it. And well, I guess the last thing to talk about with Mr. Ben, look at that cover. Yeah. Definitely a furry. I didn't want to use this to roast you, Ben, but, definitely a furry. No, there's no doubt. So, that's really all I've got right now for Mr. JepheneT's first chapter feedback redux. It's a redux, and really there's nothing I disliked here. A lot of these times I would use this to do critiques, give you the pluses and minuses. Not a whole lot of minuses. I like it. The only thing I would critique at all would be just a little too waxing poetically sometime with the language, but it never felt bad. It never was distracting. And there was some time that language was used very well. So the writing was also a plus. So you can't fault him for that. Fun animals and a really fun dialogue. That's the best thing to talk about. And really, compare this to other things, because you're going to ask, oh, why is this my favorite compared to all the other ones I've done? And really, so far, there's only been about 10 that really stuck out as best of the best. And I made a list for those on the other forum posts there. But just fun, pure enjoyment. There were other things that were maybe better written. There were other things that had better characters, better conflicts, more interesting premises. Actually, I'm not sure that's true. It's really interesting. I really thought this was interesting. Just the mystery of figuring out what was going on. Totally. But more depth. We'll say more depth. There was other things that were perhaps qualitatively better in some other ways. But just, this is when I had a smile on my face the entire way through. And that's all I have to say. I'm going to go ahead and start working on my next review of the entire series. I wanted to highlight the entire series and do a review of everything we have. It is ongoing. He posts semi-regularly, it looks like. But I actually have not read anything up until now. I didn't go past it just because I enjoyed it so much that I didn't want to ruin it. I figured there was no way he could live up to my expectations, so... I'm really hoping that it's not horrible. I'm really hoping that I don't have to really stick my foot in my mouth, because I'm going to give honest reviews. Past that of even my the written reviews I've been offering for my first chapter feedback, because those you want to be positive, you want to encourage writers. These I really want to have time to go in depth and really dig into it. So I'm going to pull my punches less, because the purpose is not necessarily to be as uplifting and encouraging. Just a really, really thorough review. If I'm going to be using the time to do all this, to make the videos, to edit it, I'm going to get in there. But once again, first chapter, reread it just before filming. Fantastic. Really fun. Really fun. And we'll see if the fun continues. So that will be coming out soon. Go ahead and give any comments. It seems like a pretty decent amount of people have already read this story to some capacity. So yeah, if you have any comments on what you thought of this first chapter, not completely, this first chapter on its own, because once again, this is just the first chapter discussion right here, and review and critique. So the full work will come later. So, but yeah, if you have any comments on my review here, if you have anything I missed, anything you disagree with, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And expect the next review out soon. And I'm going to go ahead and use this time to sort of talk about what's coming up. I put 2 threads out, one on Royal Road, one on Scribble Hub, just looking for ideas. I got a ton of ideas. You guys had so many ideas for videos you could do covering this sort of web novel content. So I'm probably going to do all of it in some capacity or another. So first, I wanted to do the highlight on my favorite first chapter review ever, since that's what I've done so far. Then I'm going to do an in-depth review. A lot of people wanted in-depth reviews, and we're going to do more in-depth reviews. We're just starting with the favorite thing. And then we got some comparative analysis. We have some bingo, which have some fun ideas for that. I have to figure it out. Logistically, it's weird. Let me pee real quick. Oh no. And also, if you have any opinions on what I should cover, go ahead and you can comment here as well, or anything in the forums, where I will be posting this stuff and have those threads already active. And past the sort of web novel stuff specifically, I do plan on having maybe a few normal book reviews when it suits me. Maybe even a movie review, because, I don't know, storytelling. I like storytelling. So, if it's relevant and if it's based on a book or something. It's whatever. This is a whatever it goes. It's a YouTube channel about storytelling. And part of that, I do plan on having a few videos on writing. I have a few planned out already with sort of what you see a lot with like Royal Road and Scribble Hub. Some genre videos. Portal Fantasy Isekai is going to be the first one I do. And then the other was, I don't remember. I had a second one planned out. But just structure, the importance of elements in that genre. A lot of crap. It's going to cover a lot of crap. Video over. Oh wait, this is YouTube. I'm supposed to say something. There's a button. You're supposed to hit a button. There's a button somewhere. Look around your house, under the seat cushions. Smash that button. Ring, I don't know, ring up a girl you've been wanting to talk to. Be like, hey girl, sup girl? Yeah, follow me on OnlyFans.